Hello and welcome to Adventures in Venueland, an EAMC podcast. This is your all-access pass to go backstage and behind the scenes with some of the brightest minds that cross the scope of the live entertainment industry. I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. We'll introduce you to some of our favorite people as we dive deep into the world of live touring shows and the venues that host them.
And today, Paul and I are taking you on another little detour or side trip, one of our many bonus episodes where we take a single serving look at a topic impacting the live entertainment industry. And today, we're heading down to Tampa Bay. Kevin Priest is joining us today. He's the Executive Vice President, Event Management for Amalie Arena. Kevin, how are things down in Tampa Bay?
They're sunny and bright. This is where champions live.
You know, as we're recording this today, you mentioned that like 75% of the country is covered in snow. And I'm looking behind you. We're on a Zoom call as we're recording this. And for our listeners, there's palm trees behind you.
And that's not a virtual screen.
I had to wonder if you had the virtual screen on. I was like, you mean there's warmth and palm trees that exist somewhere else right now?
So the one thing we want to talk to you about here today is really, what it's like when you are surprised hosting an NBA team during your NHL season, during a pandemic, and how that happens. But before we get to that, the real kind of breaking news that we just heard that you've hosted an event recently with 4,000 plus people. Tell us what it's like to host a live event with thousands of fans in the building, and how did you guys pull this off?
Well, it was awesome. It created some sense of normality. We had the Super Bowl, obviously, here in Tampa. And we were supposed to have a 3-day Super Bowl music festival and, all kinds of amazing things happening in and around our city. The pandemic obviously squashed a lot of the things that were supposed to be happening. So when we were working on the NHL schedule, and we'd already kind of started working on the NBA one, I wanted to make sure that we had something at our building. So we made sure that we programmed or made available to the NHL to have an NHL game that weekend. And then we had planned on things having here. And we also run the Yuengling Center on University of South Florida's campus. And we had held dates for a comedy show at the Yuengling Center on that Saturday night of Super Bowl, because again, we were going to have Super Bowl Music Fest here at Amalie Arena. And as it evolved, we were working with the NFL and like practice sites and fields, and the resources that the university provided made sense for that. So we talked to our friends at North American Entertainment and asked them if they would want to move over to Amalie to get to a better capacity with socially distanced or physically distanced configuration. And we ended up working through it. We went on sale right after Christmas on December 28th and did really well. We were also, a little curious on how the market was going to respond to going to an indoor event.
Sure.
And it found momentum. And then we ended up adding an 11 o'clock show. So we did a little over 8,000 people that Saturday night with a 7 o'clock and an 11 o'clock performance with Mike Epps and friends. And it ended up being absolutely wonderful. Fans were great. We'd had fans in the building for Raptors for the first few games before we saw a little bit of a spike and paused on having fans in the building. But this was our first soiree back into having fans in the building. And we got the added benefit of turning off the lights as we were doing mask control, and the fans were great. It wasn't a ruckus concert or anything like that. So we were able to dialogue with the fans, ask them to put their mask back on if they were taking it down a little too long or something like that. We do require fans wear masks the entire time unless they're actively eating or drinking. Fortunately, most comedy shows, people are drinking more than they're eating. So it worked out great. And the show was happy. The performers, it was interesting, talking to them a little bit beforehand. We used a combination of COVID protocols that we had crossed between the NHL and the NBA to create a special event protocol. And we worked with the promoter on what they were comfortable with and the talent and things like that. So we had a very limited backstage, obviously stagehands and all that stuff. It's not too hard to build something out with a bar stool, a bottle of water, and a microphone versus a full lighting rig and all that. But we get to step into that tomorrow with back-to-back Toby Max on Friday and Saturday. So we'll see how that goes. But working with our friends at Awakening Events on a socially distanced manifest, things like that, the the protocols are, or we're working together to make sure that everybody's in a safe and healthy environment back of house, because I think we've gotten pretty close to figuring out front of house.
Kevin, what did you learn or were surprised by with the Mike Epps shows, having 4,000 people in the building that you're kind of taking with you into your first, music concert, with the Toby Mac?
I think a little bit was just for Lightning hockey, people are used to coming into the building, but the last time Mike Epps played our market, he was at the Venueland Center. So just having a new audience in there and them learning the building and trying to ask questions with their masks on and just trying to find their way about a little bit. We're getting better at kind of the pre-emails on what you need to know and how you need to prepare and what you can expect. The most bizarre thing was, it was sold out. We didn't have a single unsold ticket for either session, but the building only had 4,000 people. And we were in the round. So normally in the round, we would seat about 20,000 people or just shy with any production killers or things like that. And I even warned some of the opening comedians, I'm like, you're going to walk on stage, don't be alarmed. And I showed them pictures on my phone, like there's seating pods on the floor. It's not a full floor. So you can see big gaps.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm telling you right now, it looks weird. I just didn't want them to be taken back when they first jumped on stage and started going and be like, whoa, this is weird. Because it was. But it was fun. And I will say that the fans were wonderful and they seemed to enjoy it. And I will say our part-time and our full-time staff were elated to be back and making something happen. We've been talking about shows since, mid-March last year, but mainly we've been talking about moving them or postponing them or trying to figure them out. And to actually be standing there and hearing someone call to open the doors was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know the experience of seeing that crowd. There was actually like an acoustic country concert that I did like a little freelance photography for. And we're like, okay, it's going to be the fullest it's going to be during this set. And I go out to take a wide photo and I'm like, this is bizarre. Like everything in my blood tells me this is a bad look because I'm used to this being like, ooh, this is really undersold. But it's totally, sold out to capacity, even though it's, very gapped out. So it's really interesting to see this kind of new normal like that. But it's just, it's what we're working through right now.
Yeah, and it's a crawl, walk, run, and hopefully, at least we're crawling now, right?
Right.
Hopefully we can get to walking and get to running eventually, sooner rather than later.
Kevin, one of the things that you didn't get much of a chance to crawl with is being an NBA facility, right? So talk to us about how you first heard about the potential and kind of what brought the Toronto Raptors down to play at your building.
Yeah, so honestly, it started with a very, I think, inquisitive question from the Toronto Maple Leafs GM to the Tampa Bay Lightning's GM, just saying, hey, is this something you guys would even consider? And our GM forwarded to our CEO, and he was like, is this something we would consider? Like, what does this look like? And then Steve Griggs, who's our CEO, ironically is from Toronto. He was one of the first 20 employees for the Toronto Raptors. And
wow,
he called me and he was like, could we do this? And I was like, I don't know, let's have a conversation. So we ended up having some dialogue with a couple of the people on the business side for the Raptors and kind of started looking at it. They looked at a couple different cities. I think they had some connections here with players' families or players' families and some other things. And, our environment with our district and the hotels and us being able to have fans and different things like that, it came together very quickly as, hey, you know what, this is something that could really happen. They came down, they walked some of the facilities with us. We looked at hotels, we looked at different things. And within probably the first mention of it, within 10 to 14 days, we were sitting down, sharpening our pencils and figuring out whether this could happen. And then we started having these group conference call Zooms with like 60 people on it from all different aspects of the business.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah, it was awesome. And like, I knew a few people from that organization just from what I normally do, but I was meeting, everybody in their space. And, we just started talking through it. Is this possible? What does this look like? And then once we got to that point, we started diving into the NBA protocols and looking at that. And fortunately, I kind of had a pretty good idea from being in Atlanta for as many years as I was with the Atlanta Hawks and Phillips Arena, now State Farm Arena. But The MLSE people were absolutely wonderful. They were trying to figure out how to take their team and have them play their home game somewhere else. That's not a normal conversation. So, they were absolutely wonderful to work with. And we melded together and created a gigantic team to figure it out. And then it was a matter of, okay, how do we do this? And what do we need? Like, what do you need us to load onto the trucks? And, then we had to get into like, oh, we don't have an NBA scoring table, so we're going to need one of those, and video replay and, all these things. And by the way, like, are you sending your cord or are you going to rip one? Like, we got to, it was interesting. I mean, the conversations were across the entire gamut of an event production. And obviously they wanted it to look and feel like a home game. So they packed up their court, packed up their hoops and all of their stuff, and started shipping trucks down to Tampa.
What's it been like to balance between, obviously you've got a tenant in the building, and all of a sudden they've got a new tenant to deal with right there too. So how's it been balancing and the NBA, NHL, you're kind of trying to take both sides in, and you're in a very unique position. So what's that been like?
In hindsight, we moved a lot of mountains in a very short period of time. But like I said, the collaboration made it very easy. But if you look back at it, the time that we were talking about it and working on the schedule and all that stuff for the first half of the NBA season, the NHL was still a little bit trying to figure out what they were doing. So we were able to put some dates together for the first half of the season. And again, we didn't know how long this was going to be for, right? Like, when we all paused for 2 weeks back on March 12th or 13th of 2020, we were like, oh, well, we'll get through these next 2 weeks and then we'll get back to doing what we do. We didn't know how long they were going to stay. We didn't know how long the NHL was going to have they figured out exactly what they wanted to do. So we just kind of put our heads together and figured it out, obviously communicating with our home team Lightning. And, they're very, we're all the same family. So it was very easy conversations, but it always had that caveat, but make sure, we still got what we need. And it was like, okay. So,
right. Of course.
We worked through it, and actually in hindsight, it gave us a huge jump on the NHL protocols that came together very quickly. And we as an organization decided, right as the NHL was kind of pulling all of their wants and needs together, that we were going to take the most strict standards of either respective league and hold both teams to that same level of accountability. And it ended up working out great. So when the NHL stuff came together, a lot of the NBA protocols mirrored the NHL, and we started building the business plan. And then we had our first preseason game on December 18th, and we went on sale for it on December 17th. So, so it was there was a lot going on.
Yeah, in that same vein, what's that like from like a marketing and branding perspective from the building? Because I'm assuming you're still branding it as Toronto Raptors, but they're in Tampa Bay. So are you seeing some sort of fun kind of loyalty to that team locally that maybe is like, well, they're kind of playing in our backyard, maybe we'll start following this team, people watching it? Or is it more of this kind of interesting sort of fluke thing where they happen to be in the building? Like when you were able to sell tickets to it, were people curious and showing up and kind of interested?
I mean, there was a ton of chatter about it in the media, as well as, social and all that stuff. I mean, we had that first preseason game in less than 30 days from us really having conversations about this happening. And people showed up at those games with Tampa Raptors t-shirts.
Amazing.
It was bootleg merch. It was not licensed merchandise.
Sure.
But, we had people that were going to say, you know what, like, and, we don't have an NBA team here in Tampa. And there were people that were NBA fans, or they were transplants from other communities that were excited to have something new and different. We sold out the home opener within a few days of going on sale on the 18th. So less than a week out, or maybe a week out, because I think people wanted to be at the first ever Toronto Raptors home game in Tampa, right? Like it's a sport, right? It's just not normal. It was great. I mean, when we had fans from other teams, Florida is, there were some people that were probably down here on vacation trying to get away from snow in December, or down visiting family or something like that because it was December 23rd. So we had different, teams' jerseys showing up, but, you get that in a transient city like we are, or a vacation city, but it was, but yeah, there's a lot of people that are loving it. And we had gone on sale with the first, I think it was 11 games through January, and the sales absolutely blew me away because there was no groups, there was no season tickets. We were starting at zero. It was like putting a concert on sale. So a lot of the marketing that we did was done, by Angela Lanza, who's our director of event marketing, in collaboration with the folks in Toronto and MLSE. And then we used a lot of our sports leverage with the Lightning, and all the Legos kind of came together, and it worked out awesome. So we're hoping to recreate that fire for the second half of the season. That's for sure.
The big news here is that people are still buying tickets and are excited to come to live events, right? I mean, that's great news when they are available to do that. That's just something that we all in this industry need to hear. So here's my question for you. As everybody is, in this industry is so excited to get back to work, how is your staff? Because it's that thing of like, hey, we want to get back to work. And all of a sudden, oh yeah, now we've not just got hockey, we've got conversions to basketball and back, and we're doing twice as many events as probably any other building on the planet right now. What has that been like? Has your staff been 100% on board? And how do you get them excited about, working all this extra stuff?
You know what? I think getting them excited was not a daunting task. People were calling saying, let's go. Like, when are we doing this? I know when the first thing started leaking out in the media, people were texting me and calling me like, is this real? Is this really going to happen? Are we doing this? And I was like, okay, be careful what you wish for, right? Like,
right.
Because, we are a one-team facility, and we do a lot of concerts and events, but doing a conversion every night from hockey to basketball and vice versa, and peppering some shows there, it's a different grind. But no, I mean, the staff have been absolutely wonderful, and we tried to make it as streamlined as possible, doing those conversions, because we don't have, you've seen all the tarps and the banners. So we're not having to put the fat stacks in on the end and bring seats all the way down to the basketball court. And we've got safety mode. So you can see, we try to minimize how much little detail work can be eliminated from conversion to conversion. But no, I mean, I will say, like, the staff has been absolutely excited. There was a run in January where we had, I think it was 9 events in 10 days. And then yesterday actually started where we have 15 events in 17 days. And they have been absolutely elated. I know, I mean, we were talking about the Mike Epps show before. I mean, I had cautioned them, like, we've been Zooming and working remotely, and we've had like many a quarantine nights. We probably spent more time with our family at dinner than we had in our entire professional lives. But I was like, we got to get back into event shape. And I will say, driving home from that Mike Epps show around 2:00 in the morning, I may or may not have had a heavier foot to put my head on the pillow faster because my body wasn't used to it, right? And I went from Lightning and Raptors games where you're leaving at a reasonable hour to leaving at 2:00 in the morning after back-to-back shows. I was gassed. I had a little bit of a hangover the next.
It's like, oh yeah, this is what it's like to walk around on concrete all day again. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's a different type of workout, right? But no, I mean, it's been absolutely wonderful. And our event team has absolutely, I mean, they've been like, well, no, I'll take this event. It's like, well, slow down. Like, let's figure this out. But no, that has not been an issue at all. If anything else, it's like, hey, I'm going to be into overtime. It's like, we're fine. Like, take care of our business. We'll keep figuring the pieces out.
Well, I think everybody listening today looks forward to getting back into event shape. That's a great term I'm going to steal here. Kevin, if somebody wants to reach out to you or follow the arena on social, what do you want to plug here? What can we shout out?
Yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm available at kpriest@venexsportsgroup.com, and that's Preast. It is pronounced in the biblical fashion, but definitely not spelled that way. But no, I mean, Venex Sports Group is our parent company. So we oversee Amalie Arena and Yuengling Center, and we're a resource for everybody. We want to make sure that, I know we've talked to a lot of our local Southeast folks about what they're doing, what we're doing, and all that stuff. So anybody on our team is happy to reach out and talk specifics and dive deep into the details. We're in a good spot right now, and we're very excited about that. And a lot of our neighboring venues in Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Jacksonville are starting to open up, and in Orlando. But we're not going to be truly healthy until our buildings across the country are healthy and tours can get out on the road, and we can really do what we love doing and bringing events to our communities. So we're happy to share everything that we're doing, because until, like I said, until we're all healthy, well, nobody's going to be truly healthy.
Amen.
Well said.
Thank you, Kevin.
Well
We appreciate the time today, and especially on a busy run of shows, right? I think we're all very officially jealous.
I'll send you my address, and you can send me one of those knockoff Tampa Bay Raptors jerseys.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's I will say, like, it's been fun, and I can't imagine a better group to work with than MLSC. And I felt for them because, they were being displaced through no fault of their own. And I use the example, I'm like, you know what, we're going to treat you like our family, whether you like it or not. So beware, because, if a hurricane came through Central Florida and took us out, we might have to go play somewhere else. It happened to New Orleans that ultimately ended up in Oklahoma City. And that worked out long-term for Oklahoma City, but you never know when something's going to happen. So if you treat people like family, hopefully they'll treat you like family on the back end. Good karma.
Family like Amalie, right?
Emily like Amalie. There you go.
Kevin, thank you for joining us, and thanks to everybody for listening to this special detour episode of Adventures in Venueland. Remember, you can subscribe and find more episodes wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We love your 5-star reviews so you can help others find us. And until the next adventure, I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. Thanks for listening, everyone.